Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In our today's video, we'll be creating a BMI Health classification dashboard. This dashboard will be working in two ways. Okay, in one way it's going to be receiving data set, and it will be using that data set to explore our dashboard, where we'll be creating a BMI distribution and a BMI category sheet. And in another way, we are going to also create a calculator where an individual can calculate his or her BMI. This dashboard is also going to be making use of two filter button, an age range filter button where you can select between two age range value, and also a gender filter button where you can select for males and females. You know that the BMI for males are usually different for that for females. Okay, so let me just walk you through the dashboard. So if we scroll down, you see we have this scatter plot that shows the various BMI distribution between age and gender. It is colored by the various BMI class, and if I go ahead to apply this filter on this, you see that it filters also our dashboard between age range of 28 to 58 years. Now if I go ahead and click on all, it's going to be showing all values for both males and females between this age range. So go ahead and scroll down, we have this BMI category percentage as well. Is a pie chart that shows us different percentage. So with this we can see that 37.9% of our data set have the normal BMI category, 9.89% are underweight, 23.2% are obese, and 29.1% are overweight. Alright, so if we scroll down now, we have our BMI calculator that we can use in calculating our BMI. So for example, I can increase our height value to 1.73. you can also decrease your value as well, and we can increase the weight value to let's say 64.1, and you can see it automatically calculates the BMI as 21.4. It also tells us the category that this specific BMI falls under, and it is a normal BMI value. So if you want to see how I was able to create this dashboard, then ensure to watch this video till the end. Okay, I'll be giving you a detailed process on how I went about to create this dashboard. So without wasting time, let's dive right in. So this is the data set we'll be using. So if I click on this to open this is our CSV file, and our CSV file contains 1 2 3 4 5 columns of data. We have age, gender, height, the weight, the BMI, and the BMI class. Okay, so this is the CSV file we would be using. Alright, now to create our Python file, all I have to do is to click on this first icon that says new file, and I'll call this our BMI.py. Okay, so with this we've created our Python file, so it's very easy to create. Now what we are going to be doing is we'll be importing those libraries which we'll be using, and those are Pandas as PD, Streamlit library, and Plotly.express that will be used in creating our interactive chart. So let me go ahead and do that. So now that we've imported those libraries which we'll be needing, the next thing I want to do is to read in our data set that we'll be using. You know we just have the data set here, but we have to read it in on our Python file as well, and to do that we'll be using the pd.read_csv, since it's a CSV file, and we'll be passing the path to that file. So in my previous video I've shown you how to access the path to your file in case you don't know where it's located. So let's say pd.read_csv. okay, so we're using this, and now we just have to pass in the path to our file. So let me go to, this is where I have the data set saved in my laptop. So I'll click on this, go to properties, and I can now go ahead and copy the location. Okay, so this is where our file is located. All right, so we still have to add the file name as an extension, right? So let's go ahead and do that. BMI Health Data. Okay, so slash, and now we will add the file extension, which is CSV. Okay, and I'll just come here and add arrow in front of this. So this is going to be with this we've been able to read in our data set. So we'll just call this our df. So let's save this as df. So now the next we want to do is to create our sidebar filter. So like I showed you earlier, our sidebar is going to be containing two filters. One is going to be for the age range, and the other one is going to be for the gender, to select if the person is male or female. So to create your sidebar filter, we'll be using the Streamlit st.sidebar.header, and this is just to just to create a text that says filter, just to signify that this sidebar contains our filters. Okay, so now to create the filters in the sidebar, we'll be using st.sidebar.slider. So this slider option, it's just going to contain range of values where we can pick our minimum value as 10 and maximum value as 80. Okay, so within those 10 to 80, we are going to be getting all values from 10 to 80. So that's going to be our select age range filter. And the second filter which we'll be creating is the gender filter. The gender filter will help us to select if the person is male or female. Okay, so we're going to be using the st.sidebar.selectBox, and this is going to be our gender filter, which will be containing a list of values: male, female, all. Now what we want to do next is to filter our data set. So if you are good in using Python, then you will know that this line of code, we are just technically subsetting those age range of values. We want to return those age range of values which we have selected. So what this line of code is doing, it's helping us to filter our data to return only those age values, or only those rows of ages where that is between the selected age range. Okay, so if you are used to using Python, you will know that this line of code, we are just subsetting, which is like a filtering action to filter our data set. So what we are technically saying is, if the age value is greater than or equals to our minimum age range value, or if it is lesser than or equals to the maximum age range value, then return those rows of data. So for example, if an individual selects 20 to 40 as the age range value, then this line of code is just going to look at the data set and see those rows of data that are greater than or equals to 20 and are lesser than or equals to 40. So those are the rows that is going to be returned. That is what we are technically saying here. And the next we want to do, after returning those rows, we also want to go ahead and filter our data set for the specific gender selected. So we're saying if our gender filter is not equals to all, meaning if we selected a specific gender like male or female, then go ahead and return only rows of data that are equals to that gender that is selected. So if we selected male, then go ahead and return only rows of data that are male, or go ahead and return only rows of data that are female. So now that we've been able to filter our data set, we've been able to get just return those rows of data we'll be using to create our dashboard. We want to give our dashboard a name, so we'll be using the st.title to name our dashboard, and we'll be calling it our BMI Health Classification Explorer. So it's technically a dashboard where you can use in exploring, checking the BMI based on an individual's height and weight. All right, so and we just go ahead and write this short text that says this dashboard shows BMI category distributions across age and gender for real health concern. Okay, So now the next thing we want to do now is to start creating our charts. Now to create our charts, we will be using plotly.express, and you know why we make use of plotly.express, not Seaborn or not matplotlib, because it helps us in creating charts that are interactive. Okay, so if this is the first time you are watching my video, then at the end of the day you are going to see the charts that we are going to create, and you see how it is different from using matplotlib or using Seaborn in creating charts. So now to create our chart, this chart is going to be a scatter plot that shows the distribution between age and gender. Okay, so what we want to do, we call it st.subheader to just give our chart a name. This will be our BMI distribution, and now to create our chart we'll be using ps.scatter. Remember that ps is for plotly.express, and we've imported it at the beginning of this video. I'll be using the dot scatter to create our scatter plot. Now all we have to do is to pass in our data frame, which is our filtered df. Remember our filtered df that helps us to return those rows of data just for those specific age range we've selected, and the specific gender as well. Yes, that is the data set we'll be passing in filtered df. Now our filtered df, what are those two columns we need? Our age column. Remember we are creating a BMI distribution chart that shows distribution between age and gender, right? So we're passing in our age column and our BMI column. Now we are also going to be coloring this chart by our BMI class. So we want to see the various classes of BMI, those that are obese, those that are underage, those that are overweight, those that are in the adequate weight range. So we want to see all the various classes, and we'll be adding gender as a symbol to tell us females and males, just to show the difference between those that are males and those that are females. Okay, so these are the parameters we'll be passing to create our scatter plots. Now we'll go ahead and give this a name, BMI distribution by age and gender, and we can now just go ahead and use the st.plotly underscore chart to set our container width. So with these few lines of code, we've been able to create our scatter plot that will be showing the distribution between the age and gender. So let me go ahead and save this, and I will go ahead and run this our sheets. Want to see what our dashboard looks like even if we are not done yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So now what we have to do is to come here and say Streamlit run our BMI bmi.py. So we want to go ahead and run this Python file. So let's see what comes up. Alright, so this is our BMI chart. We can see our distribution between age and gender. So this is why I say we are using plotly.express, because you can see that it has a tooltip that shows us the gender, the age, the BMI value, and the BMI class as well. So if we're using Seaborn or matplotlib, it would not have been possible. So you can see our age slider. We can slide between any age value, and you see it affects our chart, right? We can also select a gender, and you see it's further filters our chart. Okay, so this is what we've created so far, but this is not the end. So let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. So now the next thing we want to do is to look at the percentage breakdown of the various categories. So we want to look at the various, we have the various BMI class. So we have normal, obese, overweight, and so forth. So we want to see how many percent are normal, how many percent are obese, how many percent are underweight, overweight, and so forth. So to get the percentage, first thing we want to do is to create this subheader that says BMI category percentage using ST. All right, so now we are done with that. We are going to be using our filtered data frame. Remember, our filter df, I'll be passing in this time around, we want to get just the BMI class. Remember that we want to get the percentage categories for these various class, right? So we'll be calling on the dot value underscore count method, because with this is going to give us the total count of rows for each of these various categories. So if, for example, we have 10 rows of data where the BMI are underweight, another 20 rows of data where the BMI are overweight, is going to tell us that, okay, it's going to count each row and tell us how many rows of data have those various BMI class. And calling on the normalize equals to true, we return a percentage of those values. So we can now save this as our percent underscore df. All right, now what we want to do next is to get just 2 columns from our percent df, which is going to be our BMI class and our percentage column, which we just created. So now what we want to do now is to ensure that our percentage columns are in percentages. All right, so we just go ahead and multiply it by 100 just to make sure that our percentage column is saved in percentage values. All right, so we can now go ahead and create our pie chart. Remember, we want to see the category percentage, so the appropriate chart to use in representing this is the pie chart. So we'll be using the ps.pie. We'll pass in our data frame, which is percent underscore df, and now we're going to be passing in the 2 columns of values we want to see, the BMI class and the percentage column. All right, so we can give this a name and call this the percentage breakdown of BMI category. So with this, we've been able to create our pie chart that will be showing us the breakdown of each category. So if we go ahead and save this, now let's go back to our browser and just go ahead and refresh this. So let's scroll down a bit and see if our dashboard has been updated. So you can see our dashboard has been updated and we now have our pie chart. From here we see 35.4% have the normal BMI category, 11.7% have underweight, 25.4% are obese, and 27.5% of our data are overweight. Okay, so the filter still works, so you can still apply the age range filter. You can also pick a gender, and it also works on all the sheets on the dashboard. So let's go ahead and continue. So now the last thing we are going to do is we also want to create a calculator where we can check our own BMI irrespective of the data set. Okay, so previously we already have a data set and we are using the values from that data to check BMI. What if I want to check my own BMI? Okay, so I'll be creating a calculator that can do that. So this will be calling this our BMI calculator. So we can just go ahead and give this a subheader and we'll call this check your BMI. Let's just make this educational, and what we want to do next will be creating 2 values, our height input and our weight input value. Okay, so we'll be using the Streamlit number underscore input to be able to create those range of values. The minimum value is going to be 1.0, the maximum value is going to be 2.5 meters. Okay, we are going to have a placeholder value of 1.70 and an incremental value or a step value of 0.01. If probably we say we are starting from 1.70, so if we are increasing, we are going to be adding 0.01 to 1.70. Okay, so the same thing, we'll be doing that for the weight as well. So our minimum weight value is going to be 20 kg, our maximum weight value is going to be 200 kg. We are going to have a placeholder value of 65.0, so whatsoever the dashboard is open, the slider is going to be set as 65.0 and an incremental value of 0.1 as well. So anytime you increase your weight, you are going to be increasing by 1 kg. So now to create this BMI calculator, we'll be using just if else block. It's very simple and straightforward. So we'll be using an if else block, and we are going to be saying if our height input is greater than 0, what do we want to do? So how do you calculate BMI? BMI is calculated by weight divided by square of height. Okay, so if our height input is greater than 0, go ahead and square that height input and divide the weight value by the square of the height value. So that's what we are technically saying. So whenever the height input is greater than 0, square the height value, so height raised to the power of 2, then divide the weight input value by the value gotten from the square of height. Okay, so we can now go ahead and run this to one decimal place, and this is going to be our BMI value. Remember that traditionally to calculate BMI is weight divided by square of height, right? So now to do the classification, we'll be saying if that value you've gotten, your BMI value you've gotten, if it is lesser than 18.5, then you are underweight. Will be classified under the category of underweight. If it is lesser than or equals to, then if the value is between 18.5 to 25, okay, then we are going to be classifying you as normal. Okay, so we are using the elif. You know, in if statement you use if, and if you want to repeat another if statement, it's going to be an elif. Okay, so the next if statement is going to be an elif. So we are saying if the value of 8.5 is lesser than or equals to your BMI value, or your BMI value is lesser than 25. So what we are technically saying, we want, if the value is between 18.5 to 25, then go ahead and categorize that BMI as normal. Okay, then if the value is between 25 to 30, go ahead and calculate that BMI value as overweight. If it is above 30, then obese. Okay, so this is how we are going to be creating our BMI calculator. So once we are done with that, we can now go ahead and write this statement. This is just going to be like a test statement returning your BMI value and your BMI category. So we are going to be using the literary string format method, and we are going to be passing in our BMI value into this test. So it's just technically saying your BMI is any specific BMI value that was returned. Your category is going to be returning your category returned, and a brief information is also going to be added. So this is all we are going to be typing to create our BMI dashboard plus calculator. So let's go ahead and save this. All right, so let's go ahead and Ctrl S to save this, and let's go back to our localhost and refresh this. So if we refresh our dashboard, let's see what we are going to get. Okay, so we are also getting our BMI distribution, we are getting our BMI category pie charts, and now if I scroll down, you see we now have our BMI calculator. So for example, I can use 1.70 meters, and let me put in the weight of, you can subtract weight. You see, you can subtract weight. It's loading up. Okay, so we are using 63.90 kg, and it immediately calculates your BMI as 22.1. 22.1 is within the normal BMI category, and it says, okay, this is just a reference, not a medical advice. For personal guidance, talk to a qualified healthcare professional if your BMI is above. If it's overweight or obese, then you can go ahead and consult a healthcare professional. Okay, so this is how we are being able to create this simple but very effective and useful dashboard. Okay, so you can pass in your data sets to classify your values in your data set, and you can also calculate and get the person's BMI and person's category. You can also go ahead and use the select age range to filter these two sheets in your dashboard, which we've seen before. Okay, so if we pick male, you see it affects our dashboard and filter it for those value. All right, so this brings us to the end of this video. If you found this video helpful and educational, then please ensure to give this video a thumbs up. Let's reach a larger audience. And also, if this is your first time here or you've not subscribed yet to this YouTube channel, then please ensure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. What we do here is I teach you how to analyze healthcare data. Also remember to drop your comments and questions in the comment section. Find any place confusing, if you need clearance, if you need guidance, then ensure to drop your questions and your comments in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer each and every one of you. So till next time, bye for now and see you in my next video.